Pittsburgh Sportsline. Glad to see you tuning in. We have a great show. There's a lot of sports talk out there, a lot of controversy. Well, typical sports day here in Pittsburgh. We start our first segment out here with what's on our mind, and we're going to change it up with what's in Mike's mind at the end. Big Mike is here again.
Live?
No, we're just talking.
What's on my mind now?
Yes.
Okay, can I do a visual?
No.
Okay, I'm going to do a visual.
We know you're not going to listen anyhow.
Oh, I can't do a visual.
Yes.
Okay, what is this? In any sport, specifically baseball, because that's what I talk about. What is this? They're praising the heavens, right? Mm-hmm. Now,
I thought it was a thunderstorm that they were looking at up there. Lightning.
I'll make the jokes out. Okay. I'm going to tell you about a game I saw this weekend, and you guys can maybe fill in the blanks. Okay. Here's I'm going to set up the scenario for you. It's the bottom of the ninth, and the home team is down by a run. The visiting team has their closer in. There's a man on first with one out. Ground ball to the shortstop. Bing, bang, bong. A short double play. He bobbles it. What does he do? Camera pans in on the shortstop. He goes like this. Now there's two on. You guys are following this or not?
No.
Now there's two on and one out. Okay? They're down by a run. All of a sudden, bing, bang, bong. There's a 3-run home run by the hitter. Home team wins. They pan to the closer, and the closer goes like this. Now, where was this game? The game was in my mind. I had a dream because I can't stand this stuff. When they have a base hit, a home run, the guy strikes somebody out, and they go like this, Jazz. Now, I want to tell you what. Guys, what's there, 800 Major League ball players? 800? 25 on a team times 30, 32 teams?
They've expanded the teams at this time of year, so I'm
we're,
not going to argue with
we're into 855 ball players currently, and I can assure you that not half of these guys know what God is, go to church, do any of this jazz, yet they're going like that. They even have little leaguers in the Williamsport World Series going like this. And it just irks me all to death. Now, I forgot where I was going with this, but this stuff is this is out of control. In other words, if you can do it when you get a base hit, you hit the HR, you strike out the guy, you should be asking for more help from the guy upstairs when you make a miscue, when you strike out, when you serve up a 3-run HR, and there you go, I'm on a roll. Let's move on.
What's your point with all this?
I don't like that stuff. I think it's stuff stupid because
I just wanted to clarify.
I don't believe those guys have an inkling of what is up there and what they're doing. It's all for the camera. It's like how much camera time do you need? I mean, I go home and when these things appear on YouTube, I watch them 5 or 6 times. I'm getting tired of myself. I've cut it down at least half. 3 times maybe.
You still have 3 more minutes, Mike.
I do.
Yeah. We're going to move on. Thank you, Mike. That was a pleasure. I didn't know what was on your mind, but
no, what's in my mind? That's the new segment with me.
I tried to change it back.
I noticed I didn't get any of this from Smoking. He's too busy getting next week's predictions.
Well, on a serious note, we'll go to Smoking Jim Frazier. What's on your mind, Smoking Jim?
Thanks, guys. And I tell you what, I'll pass this down for you guys to look at. On draft day, the Pittsburgh Steelers, when I was with them in their war room, asked me to get them a kick returner, a punt returner in the 5th or 6th round. I texted everybody after I told the Steelers that my pick would be T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton. From Florida Atlantic. Steelers never heard of him. T.Y. Hilton, this past Sunday for the Indianapolis Colts, not only is he the starting wide receiver, he had 4 catches, 113 yards, and 1 touchdown, and he's already Andrew Luck's favorite target ahead of the established veteran there. Real quickly, I'm 6-1 on my picks.
Did you say 6-1?
6-1. Seattle Seahawks did a great job in defeating the Green Bay Packers last play of the game. But finally, I'm a little upset still with the insubordination of my favorite football player next to Ray Lewis is Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's been insubordinate with the offensive coordinator Todd Haley ever since Haley was hired. 2 weeks ago, he said they had an argument in Denver, but he walked away. This past game, he said he went to last year's playbook, which is Bruce Arians, and started making calls because all the players are on the same page. Hey, listen, it throws back, for example, and this is what Coach Tomlin needs to do. After my freshman year of college, they fired our head football coach, which was devastating to me because I thought I would have to start going to class, but fortunately I didn't. We brought in a young, innovative offensive coach who sort of was like Urban Meyer. Our quarterback was going into his senior year. He was a transfer from the Ohio State Buckeyes. And as a junior, he threw for 20 interceptions. And at our first team meeting with our new football coach, he told everybody that this quarterback was his quarterback. He was his quarterback. But he guaranteed if the guy listened to him and worked hard, he would not throw more than 6 interceptions as a senior. We were all excited. The quarterback says, Coach, what are you going to do to help me out? He says, I tell you what, when you throw your 6th interception, you'll never play again. And sure enough, as a senior, when he threw his 6 interceptions, he never dressed again for the rest of the season. Mike Tomlin, take a page out of my old college coach. Sit down right now with Big Ben Roethlisberger and let him know the next time you send in a play or Todd Haley sends in a play and Big Ben not only changes it but goes back to Bruce Arians' playbook, he sits the bench for 2 games. That's what's on my mind.
Thanks, Smoking Jim. Those are great insights.
Oh, thank you, sir.
The serious guy.
Now, Chip Hayner, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Thank you very much, Alan. As you can see, the Kool-Aid is getting a little thin here for the Pirates. You know, season's coming down to a close, and the Pirates are stumbling to the finish line, and it's unfortunate. But you know, instead of dwelling on all of the negatives, you know, I'm just very grateful for the type of season that the Pirates gave us this year. They gave us a lot of good baseball to watch. They gave us. Filled the airwaves with all kinds of moaning and griping about Clint Hurdle and everybody else well into September, which is something by now we're all, you know, firing the Steelers' whole staff, which, of course, on our show last night we went ahead and did after the Raiders lost. But, you know, what's more importantly on my mind, and I spoke to this several times, is about the refereeing in the NFL. And Smoking Jim is now 6-1 on his Monday night picks, and it's not because the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers. The referees beat the Green Bay Packers. You know, the 2 games, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, both ended on controversial calls, and you know the referees are running off the field. And you know, I was listening to you know, to one of the major sports networks this afternoon, and I was listening to Aaron Rodgers go off on the refereeing of the game and the call that was made and apologizing to the fans and everything. Now, I wonder what the consequences of that are going to be, because today Roger Goodell handed down fines for John Fox for berating officials last week, and Jack Del Rio, who's his defensive coordinator, for verbally abusing officials. Now, what are you going to do when you got one of the star players in the league? Let me say marquee players in the league. Aaron Rodgers, now, he's bad-mouthing the referees. Now, what are you going to do to him? Is he going to get suspended? Is he going to get fined? Or how are you going to handle this? You know, I know you've got the coaches of the teams under, you know, a code of silence because, you know, you're going to fine them, you're going to suspend them or do whatever. You've got something to hold over their heads. But what are you going to do about the players? And more importantly, what are you going to do about the quality of football that's being played? You know, I was thinking that the referees really had no business going on strike. I mean, you know, really, how are they being treated unfairly? But, you know, none of that really matters, but they're damaging the game of football right now. It's embarrassing to see. and you know, and for all the hundreds and millions and billions of dollars that are, you know, spent and wagered on pro football, you know, what do you think that one play did to the line in Vegas last night? Because the line was holding at 3.5 points, and the Packers were just sitting there and had the bet covered until the referees decided to take that game away from them. But you know, something needs to be done to resolve this situation, because it's, you know, I shudder to think of how embarrassing next week's going to be. That's what's on my mind, Alan.
You stole some of my thunder here. And the referees weren't on strike. They're locked out because they didn't agree. The contract expired in the summer.
Well,
I don't want to bring out all the minutia here on how contracts work.
Big words.
But the problem is, we don't know as a public what's going on. So just to jump on your what's on your mind, I wanted to bring it up. Maybe we'll just have a segment on this because I was the first one to say that the referees will cause all these problems. Now you're on my bandwagon here, and I'm not happy because it cost my man a win. In my mind, I put an asterisk beside Smoking Jim's name. He's undefeated. But we have a couple issues. I'll give you some stats. This past week, there were 20 calls that they threw a flag on. 16 of them were overturned. Now that's 80% for any of you that don't do math. 80% of the calls that were protested were overturned. So there is a problem. Even with the great referees that we do have, we all complain about it. They make mistakes, plenty of them. But are they so egregious as they are now? No. And that's part of the problem. It's changing the game.
Well, and to speak to your point, Alan, listening to, the description of the rules and how it affected that play last night, it's amazing that anybody can make any kind of decisive call. When you look at the rules, I mean, they need to put them in English and make them one sentence, maybe two sentences long. I mean, you've got a paragraph with subtitles and italics and circles and arrows and an explanation under. And so even the regular referees, no wonder they make so many mistakes, because now instead of just being able to see a call and make a call, you see what happens and you say, well, geez, how does this rule apply to this? And and you stand around and it
well, what happens is they put layers upon layers of these rules because of situations that happen. Look about the tuck rule. That all started all this stuff. We're like, where was that? Here it was in there. There was a tuck rule, but who knew about it? Now, anytime there's an incident or there's a mistake or somebody looks like they're taking an edge here, now they create another little rule on this. And then here's another fact for you. If each NFL pays only $100,000 more, now they just signed one of the most lucrative TV contracts ever. There's billions flowing into the NFL. What's $100,000 for each team per game? And these referees get their retirement, they get a little bit of a pay raise, and they don't have to have a referee full-time. They want one referee full-time. That's the deal. That has to work full-time.
And that's one of the things right now. None of us really know what the issues are.
This is why I'm telling you. This is why what's on my mind is I found out what a couple of the other rules are. With this contract, they want to have 21 other referees on the sideline waiting during the season. So if these referees make a bad call, and this is so ironic, if they make a bad call, then they would lose their job and one of these 21 other referees would come in. So that's why they locked them out. They didn't agree to any of that. Their contract expired. If you have to look over your shoulder, like you described with the rules, look at Ed Hockley. What was this, flipping a coin? He'd be gone, right? So, I mean, think about it. There's a guy with all the experience, had a lot of great success in his referee career, and then he could actually be thrown out because they got 21 other referees agreed as per contract. Look at the players. They gave away all of their rights to make Emperor Goodell rule on everything. He's judge, jury, and everything else. So if you don't know what's in your contract, let alone what the rules are, this is what causes all that confusion, and it cost my man a win. I'm just glad I didn't bet the house.
Well, I tell you what, forget that $100,000. Let the referees sit. I think that Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson need to get involved. The brother referee made the right call in the end zone. The brother was in the minority again. They overruled him and said touchdown. You talk about 80% of the flags, red flags are overturned. I think Mike Tomlin is 0 for 4 again.
And he was the only guy.
Replacement refs ain't got no respect for the brothers.
And here, somebody was mentioning about the line out in Vegas. There was a $150 million to $350 million turn of events.
Wow.
That was what was on the table. There's even rumors that there was up to $1 billion that changed from a loss to a win for the Hawks.
You know how much
that's a lot of cash.
You know how much Dan Bryan could make it rain with that kind of money, man? It costs us a lot of money, man.
That would cause a lot of rain.
But I take a different
what's your approach
on that? First of all, I believe that players are a piece of meat. Who was the player that intercepted Jenkins?
Yes.
Right now, if I was coaching the Green Bay Packers, Jenkins would be cut, I would tell him to turn in his playbook. He wouldn't even be allowed back into Green Bay. Football 101 says one thing on a Hail Mary. You bat the football down. You bat it down. That's 101. That's how you coach. That's how you're taught. I'm like Jimmy Johnson. Doggone it. You fall asleep in my team meeting, you cut. You don't bat the ball down on the Hail Mary and cause me a win, then I got to let you go.
It's a whole different era. That's the problem. They're all about stats. They're all about those contracts. They got to catch the football on an interception. How many times do we see that each game? They don't play that way anymore. You know that. It's rare.
All about stats, you're
They
right.
want the stats.
No, not the stats. It's the status they want. They want to be the guy on Sports Center, on the lead. They want to hear Chris Berman do his highlight film.
A little whoop.
You mean this guy? You mean that guy?
Oh, now you brought Big Mike back in. This is
in.
football. They don't do that.
Oh, they do this in the shuffle and all that jazz. Okay, they do something. I'm telling you.
But some other interesting things that are going on in the world of pro football. I hear Andy Reid is now backtracking because he's made the claim now that Michael Vick will continue to be his starting quarterback now. Mike Vick is just he's really laid an egg so far this year. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes. He's got 6 interceptions, and he's been hit more than anybody in the league. I don't see him making it past week 8 of this season. And once again, Mike Vick, he did this when he came out of Virginia Tech, and then he signed with the Falcons. He shows moments of brilliance, and he gets everybody excited, and they throw $100 million at him. And he did that with Atlanta, and then he really was a very mediocre quarterback after he signed that contract. And, he comes back out of nowhere after being in prison and abusing animals and everything like that. He comes back, and he has one real good year. He probably had 7 or 8 real good games. He lit up the... Here comes the Philadelphia Eagles writing that big check again, and he hasn't done a damn thing since. I think he's the most overrated player in the NFL, without exception. Pretty much I think if the Philadelphia Eagles want to have a chance to win and win consistently in the future, they ought to be looking for his replacement now. It sure wasn't Kevin Cobb, but,
They sent him to Arizona, and he won a game in relief. So
yeah.
Maybe they need him.
But I tell you one thing, unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they did not get Philadelphia in these first 3 weeks, because like Chip said, that Philadelphia had to be one of the worst teams in National Football League. They're probably the worst 2-1 football team out of the gate ever. And I tell you what, who knows, in the National Football League, it can all come together. Michael Vick only played a handful of plays in preseason. Pittsburgh's going on their bye week this week. Philadelphia could come together and start playing well and have some momentum coming in the Heinz Field, which would be, bad news for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it could be very bad news for the Pittsburgh Steelers because, Philadelphia, you got LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. You've got Macklin. You've got Deshaun Jackson. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of offensive weapons. Now, it seems to be that the Eagles have had more difficulty protecting Mike Vick than the Steelers do Ben Roethlisberger. If that trend continues and the Steelers are able to bang Vick around a little bit, the Steelers may have a chance. If they protect him, could be a long day.
Well, they haven't proved that they can rush the passer that well this year. So, we have some issues there, like you guys have pointed out numerous times. Not off that bandwagon yet. I think they'll resurrect the rush a little bit here and get some better play.
They need input from Harrison and Polamalu. They don't have the depth that they've had in years past, and those two guys are sorely missed, and especially with the pass rush because Polamalu comes out of nowhere. He frees up at lanes for somebody else to be able to make it to the quarterback, and Harrison, James Harrison is James Harrison. Right,
but he has so many issues. If they went back in and did some arthroscopic again, he has more issues there. He's not going to come back right away. And then what kind of player is he going to be when he comes back?
Well, one thing I can say is the Pittsburgh Steelers make all the media guys sign a release form that they can no longer report what they see in practice. I was at practice today. I went to the Steeler practices today.
What'd you see?
And because I wanted to get a steak. And I'm not allowed to say what I seen in practice, but Polamalu and James Harrison practice, so they will be playing. If things continue, the Pittsburgh Steelers told me that Troy and James Harrison will be playing
Did you
in
get
Philadelphia.
A steak? Did you get to at least
man, they
eat
got
the
all
steak?
black cooks, brother. It's like a family reunion when I go down there.
Well, at least you got your steak, since I didn't hear what you said. I don't know if you'll be back next time, but I heard the steak. Well, thanks for your Steeler insider that was unofficial. You didn't really see anything. We do appreciate that type of stuff.
He saw the steak momentarily.
He didn't say he ate it, though. Did you notice that? He didn't say how it tasted. So we'll get that.
Some on my shirt.
Oh, okay.
So corn on the
Hold
car.
it. I thought that was a
Corn
polo
on the car.
mark. I thought that was a polo mark on there.
I brought this from the brother out of the back of his trunk of his
Watch out,
car,
spill.
man. I
Don't
get all
watch
my
out, spill.
polos out of the back
If you
trunk
can,
of the
if
car
you
on
can
the
point out
hill.
where he's located at,
On the
I'll go
hill.
visit. Where at? Because I grew up there on Pride Street. Just point it out to me, okay? We'll have to do a little visit up there. For $5 a shirt, I'm in on that. And after I collect $1, you know what? We gotta talk. We gotta talk the pirate talk.
We got to talk.
Here.
We got to talk.
Kool-Aid's done.
The Kool-Aid's done.
We're going to the.
We're not done with the Pirates.
No,
yet.
he's on the
They've got
bandwagon
They've got
stuff.
9 more games to play this year, and they're playing the Mets tonight. And, you know, the Pirates just need to finish out the season strong. I mean, you know, they've been able to win games all season. It seems like they've had a real difficult time putting the pieces together in the month of September, and I guess this is all part of the learning process for them. You know, last year, it was earlier in the season before they gave it up. But you know, I mean,
100 games, Chip. They made it to 100 last year.
The facts are the facts. Okay, you know, you can't deny them. The Pirate team went as far as their abilities were able to take them this year. You know, as much as we all wanted the Pirates to make the playoffs, win the World Series, and make everybody in Pittsburgh happy to have them, they're still here. They were a significant improvement over where we were 2 years ago, an improvement over last year, and I think they're continuing on an upward climb. You know, ultimately next year, I expect them to be a team that can compete for the Central Division crown. But the current team that they have right now, I don't think is going to be the one that's going to do that. They're going to have to sit down and do some soul searching, do some evaluating, and this is from the manager straight on down into the minor leagues and the way they're teaching these kids, because the kind of mistakes that continue to keep on happening are mistakes that you should not be making in the major league level. I mean, these are things that you're taught, in Little League, pony ball, maybe in high school baseball. But I mean, there's just so many of these mistakes that are happening, and these can't happen on the major league level. And you look at our record in September, and it's evidence that you can't do this. I mean, earlier in the year, we were playing sound fundamental baseball, and somehow we lost sight of that. And they need to find out, how to go about recapturing that and maintaining it for the season. Some of the players from this year's team have proven they're major league caliber players and can be the nucleus of a competitive team. There's other players that are going to be on the outside looking in next year, because changes are going to have to be made.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was on that bandwagon for a while, and we had a little conversation last night that they had to win 7 out of 10 games to be over 500, have a winning record. Now they only have to win 7 out of 9. So
as long as they got more than 7 games, there's hope.
I'm not optimistic. I'm not optimistic. I'm a Pirate fan, but they have to go further. They got to go to Nutting here, and whatever his plan was. We had 2 years that they teased all of us. It was great to have half a season. It was great to have 2/3 of a season. I enjoyed it, and we still talk about Pirates being in contention because the NL, they agreed to put an extra wild card. Without that, we would have stopped, because I thought about what you were saying. We wouldn't have talked about them past the All-Star break if it weren't for the second wild card.
And
so I
got
have
a
to
secret
disagree
for you.
there.
I want to let you in on a little secret. Bob Nutting's plan is to try to figure out a way to make snow in June and July. So people can ski in some springs in the summertime. That's what his plan is.
Wait, how's that working out for him? Like the Pirates
I
winning,
don't know.
right?
I think he picked a bad time with the global warming and everything.
I never knew what his first name was until just now. And by the way, I commend you on your eloquent, whatever that means, acceptance. I'm talking to him. The prognosticator on that awesome acceptance speech, or not acceptance, the concession speech. It's what's on your mind. I mean, that was spoken. Yes, sir. I kudos.
Mike, you have to. As much as I like to wear the rose-colored glasses, and I always like to look at the glass being half full. The facts are the facts. You can't deny them. And as much as and I'm still holding on hope for him. I'm still. They got 7 games, or they got 9 games left. I'm going to 3 of them. All right, I'm going Friday. I'm going Saturday. I'm going next.
That's
Wednesday.
3 wins.
So there's
3 wins.
So they only got 4 others.
What's your record this year? On a games attended, 1 lost.
Oh, I think.
You
Probably. Let me see. I'm going to be at 17 games total, and they are probably 10-4 in the games that I went to this year.
So far.
I'm telling you guys, I feel because post old school, the first full season of Three Rivers, I went to 50. I think something in the 50s, and the Pirates won 48, including the Thursday night game that I went to in the World Series. Yeah, I was on an awesome streak. I mean, not me, them.
Is that documented? I want to research that.
Who was pitching?
Yeah.
Doc Ellis every game.
On LSD.
If it was the first World Series game played at
you mean that night? Oh, I thought you said
Bruce
who's pitching the games I went to.
Yeah, Bruce Kieson was pitching.
Did he start or did he relieve that?
He started that game.
But he relieved in game 2 and went 27 innings and impressed everybody and hit 27 guys.
He was just a young kid then.
Yeah.
He was just a young sidearm.
Did Milt
pitcher.
May have the big hit in that game? A pinch hit single, I think. Something like that.
I'll
tell you what. Here's a good aside, because I do good asides. My buddy, my very best friend from when we were little kids, and his mother. The 3 of us went to the game, and we're in the stands. It had to be maybe the first inning, maybe just before. Over the loudspeaker came an announcement. Will the owner of a 69 Chevy Chevelle with a Pennsylvania license plate, blah, 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 please return to your car. Your engine's running.
Really?
I mean, that's how much excitement was for a World Series game, the first night game ever. Guy left his car running in the parking lot.
And this was your boyhood friend.
Yeah, and his mom. Yeah, I'll tell you what. No, it wasn't him.
Oh,
we were in attendance, and all of a sudden we hear this announcement over the loudspeaker. I mean,
I thought your aside was your buddy and his mother. It was their car.
While we're on this, while we're on the subject of baseball, one of the things that I was happy to see happen over the week, somebody stood up and showed that they were a real stand-up guy. Melky Cabrera, who's under suspension for 50 games for cheating. Performance-enhancing drugs. He was leading the National League in batting, and he had the minimum number of at-bats to qualify for the batting championship.
Well, no, there was a technicality, Chip. He had 501, and they can give you 1 extra at-bat without anything, but the team has to okay it, and they would have. So you're right there.
The point is, he abdicated any rights he may have to the batting crown, and he feels that the batting title should be won on the field by the players that are still in the game that aren't cheating, or at least haven't been caught yet. And so there'll be an interesting race for the batting title as we get down to the season. Andrew McCutchen's still leading. Buster Posey's nibbling at his heels right now, the catcher for the San Francisco Giants, and that's a little aside of another positive thing to think about when we're looking at the Pirates. I don't look at the fact that in July he was batting .370 and now he's batting .336. Hey, he's got a chance to win a batting crown. It can still be done.
What's the proximity of Posey to McCutchen?
I believe one was batting .336, the other one was like .331 or .330. I mean, they're within 5 or 6 of one another.
I'm gonna, I told you guys about these big words, so I'm going to use one for tonight. It's still in the A's because I haven't got to the B's yet, as you pointed out.
That was earlier we talked.
I'm going to abdicate next week, kids. I'm not going to be here. Going to the Yankee-Boston Red Sox game, so I'm abdicating just for 1 week. Okay, back. Abdicate.
Maybe you might have the pleasure of watching one of Bobby Valentine's last game as manager of the Red Sox.
To
be honest with you, I think the Bobby Valentine experiment in Boston should be over in about a week. I think he's a perfect example of these high-priced winning managers that really don't bring don't bring much to the table. I mean, he alienated the whole clubhouse to the point where they traded his entire team to the Dodgers.
Ozzie Guillen's on his way out as well.
Yeah, another high-priced manager, and he's lost the team in Miami.
Yep,
You know?
sure. He lost it with Fidel Castro.
Yeah, he did. He got the whole community in uproar there. He didn't realize that you can't say he's a hero.
No, he's the guy that always says, fire me, fire me, fire me. Well,
They will.
absolutely.
Well, and that's one of the things about being, a head basketball coach, a head football coach, manager of a baseball team. In the NHL, it happens a lot more frequently. But you're hired to be fired. I mean, no, there is no such thing as job security as a head coach, and Joe Paterno was proof of that.
Finally. It took a while. It took criminal investigations. It took criminal acts.
He
and
was
all
going
that
out
stuff.
on his own terms.
Yeah.
That was his thing. Absolutely.
And it would have been very nice if it would have worked out that way. And an unfortunate series of events happened, and the rest
Killed
is
him,
history.
more or less, man. I don't know how you die within 4 months. Well, I guess.
Guys that do that coach for their entire lives. It's usually right shortly after they quit coaching, they pass away because that was their life. That was, the reason why they got up in the morning, the reason why they went to bed at night. When that's gone.
Two great examples of that. Everybody knows about Bear Bryant with Alabama, but an example close to Joe Paterno is his brother was the longtime TV announcer for Penn State football games.
Was his name George?
Yeah, George Paterno.
Mm-hmm.
And George Paterno retired at 73 years old, and within 6 months he was dead. So Joe Paterno, I think, realized that, hey, this was what was keeping him alive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a true story. Because sometimes you have a punchline, but that's okay. I'm
No,
asking.
no, no.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yes sir.
okay.
Yes sir.
I was
True
waiting
story.
for it, okay.
Speaking of true stories, I'm watching the Steeler game. And Big Mike, you got to listen up on this one. This is going to tie in with what you talk about. But I'm listening to the Steeler game, and I couldn't believe what I heard because there's a baseball player from the past, but they're talking about John Madden.
Okay.
And they go, what a legend he is. He's like the Babe Ruth of football. How about that?
Wait,
you guys missed that.
I can't go with Babe Ruth until
Whoa.
I hear
Wow.
Tim Tebow, Babe Ruth. This, all you kiddies out there, is an actual contract that Babe Ruth, not contract, he took out an insurance policy on himself with the Hartford agency. This is back, and can you read the date? I don't know when that is. What year was that?
Can I read?
He
You're
went
a
to
college
college.
graduate? Yeah.
He went to college.
Okay, well, somewhere back in Babe Ruth's era, it cost weekly indemnity, whatever that word is, $200 a week. He was taking out a policy, it's called loss of time. In other words, if he ate too many hot dogs, had too many of this, did a little bit of that, and lost playing time, there was actually an insurance policy covered by Hartford, the Hartford agency that pretty much is still around today, that covered the Yankees. They gave the money to the Yankees to cover the contract of Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth.
Where did you find that?
I got this in Houston, Texas, from an awesome family by the name of Grind, who was a very good. They were actually a customer and partner of a business that I was in. Just an awesome family. They're very prominent in Houston in an industry, and we went to a silent auction, more or less, and they knew I wanted this, and they went out and got it for me. And I'd like to say I know how much it costs, how much it's worth, but it doesn't matter how much it costs. They got it for me as a gift, and what it's worth is what it's worth to me. It doesn't matter how much it costs. I mean, how much it's worth, like the autographed baseballs and all that jazz. It's meaningful to me from where it came from and the fact that I have it. Wow. And it's going to be, say, buried with me and all my Sinatra stuff in my Roush Mustang, because that's my coffin with all my stuff.
We'll try to save that for another show because that's a little too deep for me there, Big Mike.
To touch on the thing about the Steeler game and them talking about John Madden and being so legendary. John Madden is, I think, really more famous for being an announcer and a purveyor of a video game than he was as a head coach. He was a good head coach, but the thing I think takes him out of the running for great all-time head coaches. He didn't do it long enough. He gave it up real early, didn't stand the test of time. You know, you want to talk about coaches that stood the test of time. You got Tom Landry, Don Shula, Chuck Noll. You know, these guys did this for decades and have, you know, have a track record. You know, we've even talked about the Chin.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
you know, 15 years. I mean, you know, say what you will about him, you know, and the way he called games or whatever. Over 15 years, he averaged 10 wins a season. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of teams in the NFL that haven't had that happen in a couple of decades.
Yes, sir.
You know, and he was doing that on a consistent basis, and his teams were always, you know, in the running for, you know, the division or a wild card play. So, you know, I know a certain friend of mine is probably twisting the head off his chipper doll right now because I'm giving the Chin his props, but that's okay, buddy. We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one too.
Again.
And I'll agree to disagree because, as I've stated before, he played not to lose a lot of those times. And he has one Super Bowl ring where I thought he could have had 3, maybe 4 with the talent that he had on his teams. And that's what surprised me with some of that. And that's where we can argue on sports talk shows, and that's why I bring it up.
Hey, well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because, you know,
He brought it up.
You brought it up, and I brought it back to you.
Yeah, you brought it back to me. But listen, you know, we talk about
Thanks, big
playing not to lose, and on the flip side of that, you would want your coach to play to win. Now, you know, something happened in the Steeler game on Sunday afternoon, and everybody's taking Mike Tomlin to task for this because he decided to go on it on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. Okay, now a lot of people are saying that's because he didn't trust his defense and he didn't want to leave the game in his defense's hand. Well, maybe he was playing, you know, to win the game instead of not playing to lose. You know, I think it was a little bit of a bold move. And if things would have worked out the way it was, and Roethlisberger was able to continue to move the ball down the field like he had been earlier in the game, could have been the Steelers kicking the game-winning field goal. So that was a gamble. It was a risk. And, you know, I take it as I tip my hat to him for giving it a shot. I don't take that as an affront to his defense or his defensive coordinator or the players on his team. But, you know, that's just my humble opinion.
We've talked about it just previously, and I'll bring up the point that I thought he had to make that move because he did play to win. Now, is that bothersome to me as a defensive coordinator and a player? Yes. Think about it. But 5 drives in a row, they could not stop the Raiders from scoring. So you didn't see anything. I don't know. You guys watched the same game. Did it look like the Steeler D could even hold them anymore?
Well, here's the only part.
I know you got insights and you disagree, so go ahead, lay it out.
Well, here's the problem that I have. And, you know, I have a lot of problems, even though Mike Tomlin, I consider him a friend. We did a lot of things last year. We went out with Raheem Morris, the Tampa Bay coach. He came here, and I thought Tampa Bay did a great job of firing him after 5 minutes with Raheem.
Did you have steak when you went out to eat with those guys? Because that might be the last time again.
It was chicken.
You're burning bridges on the hill.
We were with one of the greatest boxers of all time, Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. owns 5,000 chickens on his farm and was big on cockfighting. So we had wings.
And who won the fight? Since we're talking about it, who won the fight? Can you reveal that since you got inside scoops?
But here's the only problem that I have with that scenario. The Steelers were up 10 points going into the fourth quarter, and granted, the defense wasn't playing very well. But my problem is this. The offense didn't score 1 point in the fourth quarter.
13-0.
The offense didn't score 1 point in the fourth quarter, but now you're going to turn all your attention on the defense. Nobody lambases that offense. Nobody's calling it, you know, what it is. Willie Colon is the worst guard I've ever seen in my life.
Amen.
Willie Colon, I see it when he got drafted from Hofstra. He should be a security guard in the Bronx for the Yankee games. He should have no business. He should be wearing a yellow jacket at the Steeler games instead of playing. He's just a bully out there. You know, he's a horrible guard. He was a mediocre tackle, but he's not an offensive guard. Worst pulling guard I've ever seen in my life wearing a Steeler uniform. Nobody's talking about the offense. They're talking about the running backs only averaging 1 yard a carry. There's no holes. If you take Big Ben out of that offense, with his ability to escape and improvise, you will have nothing. The offense lost that football game. The defense is not that good. They're going to be horrible all year long. Any team that goes to a no-huddle offense, which the Baltimore Ravens turned their offense into a no-huddle offense this year just because they could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers with that, and they're going to run into problems all season long.
I think there's a common denominator between the Steelers and the Panthers, and that's the if you guys mentioned the coach's lack of confidence in the defense. Don't they both play at, what do you call it, Heinz Field? Think about it.
Where do they practice too?
The whole 9 yards.
Southside.
The whole 9 yards. Now, since I got that football thing out of the way, I want to go back into football.
Whoa.
Chip, earlier you were talking about Michael Vick. He's a, what do you call it, a scrambling quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he had that one, whatever you call it, good season. Two points I want to make is, one is when I wonder if ball teams, be it baseball or football, will sign a player that had that one good year out of fear. Meaning, if the team re-signs him because of that one good year, fearful he's going to go somewhere else and duplicate it, or if another team gives him that big buck out of fear that, well, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. But that's just a thought. Anyway, going back to it's what's in my head,
I'm glad it come out.
It took me a while. How much time have I left?
6 seconds.
Help me. Okay, Babe Ruth. Help me with the last, I think, totally successful scrambling quarterback over a career might have been, and I saw him play it at Forbes Field, was Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
Because
With the Giants, with the New York Giants.
I don't know.
He played with the Giants.
He started with.
What about Steve Young?
He became more of a pocket passer. I mean, nobody but Tarkenton, in my recollection, he remained a scrambler almost till the day he became, done.
Bob Greasy was a scrambler. Roger the Staubach was a scrambler.
Well, yeah, and Staubach became a pocket passer. But what I'm saying is, these guys that started out that way, they're not going to be successful that way. They're going to have to be a throwing quarterback. Ever since Bobby Lane, Sammy Baugh, slinging, they started throwing the ball down the field. Man, there's the what do you call it? The four horsemen of Notre Dame. That stuff doesn't exist.
Did you see
anymore.
them play?
At Forbes Field.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and
you're old school? Because you're beyond old school now.
I'm going to bring a picture because I'm going to do like pictures.
2 weeks from now, folks.
2 weeks from now.
412-831-3304. You can call Big Mike to see what's in his mind. It won't be here next week.
Colors.
Joe Theismann, another guy that could.
And look what happened to him. I bet you
A
quit
freak
after that.
accident.
Yeah, really freakish, really.
Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah, it was. He wanted to kill, and then he wanted to eat that.
Hey, that's another good point. You guys, we have a tendency to talk about the bounty system, or the bounty with the what do you call it, the Saints.
The Saints.
Mm-hmm. There has to be more than just. I mean, the Saints could not have been the only team.
They weren't the first team, and they weren't the only team to do it. They're the first one to get caught.
Right.
Okay, because that's just like all the stories about teams that that juiced and players that juiced. The ones that get caught aren't always the first ones that did it.
Never,
some people did it better than others. I guess there's an art to cheating as well, but.
Well, sure there is. You got to have Belco. You got to have vitamins that you get on trays in the training room, and you got to cut your sleeves up, and you do things like that. And guys are in fights all the time. So there's certain things. Those vitamins they create little high-strung players.
Okay, and then while we're on another subject, is there anything to report on the Pittsburgh Penguins? No season.
NBA. Remember who said it here first? NBA
the
season.
NBA will never float in Pittsburgh.
No, I mean, they'll be like the NBA. We already tried that here. We already tried ABA. But I mean a season like the NBA.
We've already had 2 professional basketball teams failed.
Oh, ABA.
Condors
oh,
and
yeah,
the Condors and the
Coney
Pipers,
Hawkins.
and they both failed miserably. Even Dr. J, and the fish that saved Pittsburgh, couldn't save basketball in Pittsburgh.
That was what's her name with the girl,
You're an actor. Come
Fisher.
on now.
No, not Fisher. What's the girl's name? The good-looking girl who has the white hair now. She was in at the fish named Wanda. What was her name?
Call in 412-831-3304.
There you go. Yeah.
But one thing Big Mike did say, hey,
Just one.
If Connie Hawkins couldn't make it with the ABA here in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
you're not like Chip said, you're not going to have success with the NBA team.
Yeah, and
Not
I mean,
like
you know,
your
you
own.
look when they got the NCAA tournament here. As much as they say, oh, the tickets are sold out.
I was
a lot
there.
a lot of those tickets were disguised as empty seats.
No, you know what?
The seats may have been sold, but nobody came and watched the games.
I was there for a couple games, and certain fans come in because you can tell by the garb they're wearing, like the Yankee fan there, like the Pirate fan here, and like the Polo guys here on stage. They come in for their teams at different times. Not everybody's there for all the games. So I do have to differ on that. And I do know a couple people that were involved with ticket sales, and they did sell out with those.
What did they do with their cardboard?
Well,
Yeah.
they just put nobody there.
Two
That's
together,
all. They didn't
two
care.
together.
They had the money. You know sports is about the money. They got the money. And the Console Energy, they had another nice event there, like their concerts
Yeah,
and
but
everything
they,
else. So.
I mean, and I'd like to see some things happening at the console
Here's two
this
together
fall,
for
and
you.
with the owners locking out the
Here's your two together.
players.
What's he got
Two
going on?
together.
Two together.
Two together.
Two together for the Yankee game.
Oh, thank you. Is this a gift?
Yeah, you can have it, man. You can,
Thank you.
Yeah, here you go, man.
Yeah, you
I
can.
won't
together.
be here October 2nd. Sorry, folks. I'll be missing an action.
That'll be in his car when we go dig it up after he passed
Exactly.
away to get all that memorabilia that'll be dead.
I'm going to that car. If he goes before
We're
me, I
gonna
don't
be a
know.
couple grave diggers.
We're at a
man.
police
I'm
station.
calling Richie Hebner up, and we're going to go start digging.
Looking at this ticket, it says the Baltimore Orioles. This was for a game back in July, and
I
I'm going to
know.
tell you something.
It's
The resurgence
technicalities.
of the Baltimore Orioles this year. They've locked up the playoff spot, the wild card spot behind the Yankees. Tell you what, the Orioles came out of nowhere. Nobody expected them. Buck Showalter's done a great job of getting that team back into contention. You've got the Orioles and the Oakland A's, and now you got these teams that spent all this money. Like for example, the Los Angeles Angels spent a couple of $100 million stockpiling talent, and that didn't quite get them there.
You know what? Maybe you're making a point for Nutting. Keep doing what you're doing. Just change the manager. Maybe get a manager like Jimmy Leyland, who never coached in the majors. Bring up a new guy who doesn't have a record. Break this losing streak with somebody that's new.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done, but I think what you do is, you sit down after the season's over and
Sure.
and you evaluate it. You don't make a knee-jerk reaction, and then you see which way that you want the team to moving forward. Because
Mike Vint, this is for you.
There's going to be some serious
Mike,
soul searching.
here we go. Chipper, take your sip.
There's going to be some serious soul searching, but you know what? I like the direction that the Pirates are headed in. I mean, to be able to argue with people about the Pittsburgh Pirates in September. I mean, most years Steelers went to St.
Training.
Vincent's, and that's when the baseball season ended.
July. So, Chip, I enjoy arguing with you about the Pirates.
And I'm gonna argue with my dying breath because
But I'm looking for cash next week. There'll be
looking,
cash.
because I'll be taking it out of your paw.
I
after
don't
they win
know
7
about
of the
that.
next 9, buddy.
I don't know.
And I still am holding out hope for him, and I say the streak starts tonight.
Well, I heard that last week too.
You heard that last night. too.
Hold it, wait.
You heard that last night.
Anybody want more?
No, please, please.
Mike Vint, there's some Kool-Aid for you.
I have.
Chip Jacket all.
wanna
I'm
take
sorry. Come back next week when we get $1 here.
I want to take a page out of Chip Hayner's playbook, if you don't mind. I want to be a prognosticator. I want to be a predictor. In the last, during the midst of their 19-year run, let's be fair, they've seemed to try and recreate the success of another team close by. The Cleveland Indians would bring in, I forget some of the guy's name, and now Huntington. I predict now, because of what you mentioned a moment ago about the Baltimore Orioles, we will see an influx of Baltimore Orioles ticket sellers and vendors and so on here in Pittsburgh, because that's going to be the new deal for the Pirates. And while I'm saying the new deal on the Pirates, I want to read this to you because I let this go last week, but I wanted to bring this to our attention now because this is
What happened?
Well, there was a shortstop by the name of Yunel Escobar that was suspended 3 games by Major League Baseball and the Blue Jays for making a slur. And I want to read to you 3 quotes. There are 2 quotes that he said. after he got busted for wearing the eye black that was a slur on
It was a gay. It was an anti-gay.
I didn't know if we could say that.
Slur.
That's what it
Well,
was.
I
Okay.
mean,
He wasn't happy
you
about
know, but
things.
we're not going to repeat that. But I
Well, I
mean,
don't
it
even know
was
what it was.
disparaging to you
Yeah,
know,
and here's I mean, these guys are out of control. We talked about it last week. These guys just don't sit in our seats and wear our shoes. This is what Escobar said. It was not intended to come across as offensive. I like to apologize. It's not something I intended to be offensive. It was nothing intentional. Come on, guys. You put some eye black on, and it says something. Eye black is usually just a shoe polish smear, more or less. Well, if it's carved out in your face saying "Hi, Mike," or
well, no,
something
what
like that.
the eye black they use now, it's tape. It's like a Band-Aid. They,
Well, yeah,
they
I'm
put it
hip.
on, but I
I'm
mean,
not that
he
old
had it
school.
pre-printed
Yeah,
up.
this is new
So
school.
it was deliberate.
New school.
Oh, sure it
Whatever
was.
he
No
did.
more shoe polish. No more shoe polish.
Yeah, they don't use it. They found out it causes other problems. Plus, that's like clear. It used to be the clear that they were putting on. They found that's how they hid the clear.
But what did he put? What did he say?
Some happy type of statement. I don't
It
know
was
what
anti-gay.
They were happy there.
you
To be
say
honest with you,
something?
Jim, I don't know what it was that he said, and it really doesn't matter because when
No.
you're in that kind of a spotlight, you need to be more cognizant of you're in the spotlight. Things are magnified in that circumstance, and you've got to behave. I mean,
And why would you even do that?
It was in another language, though, so he probably
Yeah, but,
figured nobody
hey,
could read
Smoke
it.
it.
Some people can speak and read more languages than us.
Yeah,
Our
guess what?
Pittsburghese is
playing it
bad.
on
There's more-
ESPN Deportes.
And there's more Latinos in baseball than there is any other ethnic heritage. So it came across the more the again 855 guys. I'd say a good 200.
It went up
plus.
5 guys in the last
They should
25 minutes.
Pirates brought up somebody for tonight's game.
Or there's also a flip side of that. Maybe he was mad at his boyfriend.
Oh, ouch. We
Wait,
better
wait, wait,
change
wait,
this.
wait.
Hold on a second. You guys are getting locker room humor here.
Who was his
So-
boyfriend, the former owner of the
I knew
Pirates?
that was going there. I knew we were going down
Yeah,
that path.
We only have 4 minutes left. Smoking Jim, I can't believe you held out that long.
And now that that's been brought up, I guess I found
Who brought
this
that up?
very, very funny. That actually was a story in the newspaper on Sunday.
Wow.
Like, who cares?
Right.
I mean, what he does in his personal life is his business. What
Great point,
difference
Jeff.
does it make? How that became, and I saw it on the 6 o'clock news, and I saw it on the front page of the sports page on Sunday, and I was like, and I just sit there and look at my wife, and I was like, it must be a really slow day, at the sports desk. A friend of mine always says there's nothing worse than a reporter with nothing to write about. It's so bad.
But again, you guys missed the point. Here's what they're doing. These guys aren't just bored. They're doing it to provoke you. And look what we're doing. We're talking about them. To me, the best thing you could do is ignore that type of stuff.
It
But what
was
happens?
for 54 minutes.
You guys bought into it. We got 3 minutes left here. And all these opinions, they're just opinions. Don't even call in tonight, whatever that number is. Call next week when Big Mike's gone. 412-831. Mike, you with us? 3304.
We're losing a different Mike a week.
I know. And we're the only 3 that are all mic'd up here.
Whoever sits in that chair last week is not going to be Mike.
You know what? I think I'm calling out to some of my friends named Mike. I think we can get a new Mike to come in
You
here.
got anybody out there named Fred that's looking got nothing to do next Tuesday?
Or Bill or George.
Mikey won't eat it. Mikey likes it. Remember that commercial?
Jeez, oh man! Nice job again. You've lost it again.
Why would happen here?
The show.
We'll bring it back.
Next week.
Yeah, it'll be a very strong show next
I'm
week.
calling
But
it.
you know what? While we're on the subject, last
losing
night
our
we did
mind.
our show down at the Level 20 Lounge, and this Sunday there's going to be a benefit for a fallen officer who passed away. He was an
I have
Allegheny County
that. You
SWAT
stole
man.
my last minute chip. Go with it, baby.
Sergeant Perry Vahali. He passed away Labor Day weekend. He died in a motorcycle accident. Left a wife and 6 children. There's going to be a benefit down at the Level 20 Lounge. There's going to be all kinds of raffles and fundraising events, as well as drink and food specials. This is going to be Sunday from 1 to 7 down at the Level 20 Lounge, and I implore people to come on down and pitch into a worthy cause, because the from what everybody has told me, he was a really special person. And he left a wife and six children, and you know, they need the help, and this is truly a worthy cause. So please turn out and
the other thing, I know we can't really get it on here, but all of the money that gets donated goes to the family. They have a child as young as 14 months, and the oldest is going to just turn 17 or 16 right now. So I mean, $5 a ticket. Even if you can't go, donate. You can go online. I don't have the online facts for you, but you can find that. But here's the ticket. It's $5. Go down there. There's stuff they're auctioning off, memorabilia. There's all kind of fun activities down there. It's all to help out a good family here that needs it. And that's what we do around here. And we're all about this fundraising and just try to help them out. He was a great guy, and it's a shame that that happened there. So again, thanks to Officer Drew, Officer Tim, and Rich Griffith, the president of the society there. You know, we appreciate all the good work you do and the time that you donate. And speaking of time, folks, we had a great show. We had Big Mike with What's in Your Mind. We had Smoking Jim Frazier, who held out to the last 3-4 minutes. We won't talk about that. And Chip the Prophet Hayner. Baseball is his passion right now, but he's also a great prognosticator of football. And you have Al Levine, the talking machine. We appreciate you watching our show. We appreciate the input that you give us and some of the suggestions. And we'll see you next week without Big Mike.
If you could do one thing to help prevent 36,000 deaths, help decrease hospitalizations and the spread of disease, what would it be? Get a flu shot.
Influenza is a serious disease that can lead to hospitalization and sometimes even death. The flu can affect people differently. Even healthy people can get very sick from the flu, spreading the disease throughout the area.
In 2011, the CDC reported that 20% of the U.S. population contracted the flu, with over 200,000 people being admitted to a hospital for flu-related complications. By getting a flu vaccine, you can reduce your chances of getting the flu and the possibility of spreading the flu.
When more people get vaccinated against the flu, it decreases the spread of the disease throughout the area, making your community a safer, healthier place to live. Tri-Community South EMS is offering free flu vaccines to adults in our local communities of Bethel Park, South Park, and Upper St. Clair.
So do one thing this year. Get a flu shot. It can save your life as well as others. For information on flu shots, contact Tri-Community South EMS.